Ladies and gentlemen, this cannot be prepared for. The biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the world, Coinbase, is going bonkers. Coinbase is beginning to drive the price of XRP to unsustainable heights, according to information that has leaked. Additionally, there is an allegation that Coinbase's CEO is secretly purchasing millions of coins. Quite awesome, isn't it? According to experts, XRP's price may surpass $2,000 this month. Such a positive signal is too strong to ignore. Let's get right to the point without further ado. Disclaimer. XRP is subtly laying the groundwork for what might be one of the biggest cryptocurrency comebacks. Following years of court cases and regulatory ambiguity, a GIFRIO significant change is taking place, and it originates in the core of American finance. Coinbase Institutional recently declared that it had submitted a self-certification application for XRP futures to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC. If you're paying attention to the underlying signals, the move, which might appear to be just another product launch, could actually be a game changer for the asset. The XRP futures product is anticipated to launch on April 21st, according to Coinbase. Each contract will represent 10,000 XRP tokens and will be cash paid monthly under the ticker XRL. Each futures contract will be worth about $20,000 at the current price of about $2 per XRP Ripple token. For the current month and the next 2 months, the contracts will be tradable. Additionally, there are safeguards in place to stop trading if the spot price of XRP fluctuates by more than 10% in a single hour. That might sound like an update to the technology. However, in reality, it stands for institutional validation. Because of the SEC's litigation against Ripple, XRP has been marginalized by the biggest platforms in the sector for years. However, Coinbase is going one step further and creating a product especially for institutions to obtain regulated exposure, now that the legal haze has cleared up. That is significant. XRP was delisted by this same Coinbase in 2021. They are now developing financial products based on it. It's a complete 180. Additionally, it conveys trust in the asset's potential as well as its legitimacy. It's interesting to note that there have been whispers in the cryptocurrency community that Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, may be in possession of millions of XRP tokens. All the rumors are persistent enough to have garnered attention, even though nothing has been confirmed. Should Armstrong really own a sizable portion of XRP, this would account for the abrupt change in approach. Additionally, it would indicate that one of the most powerful CEOs in the cryptocurrency space has a stake in the outcome and may have a long-term plan for Ripple's place in the development of digital finance. However, the markets for XRP derivatives are displaying symptoms of doubt in spite of all of this. Because funding rates have turned negative, traders who are betting against XRP are prepared to pay more to keep their short contracts open. It's an obvious sign that at least for the near future, pessimistic attitude is still prevalent, but dramatic reversals frequently start with that kind of preparation. It just takes a tiny spark to start a chain reaction in the opposite way when there are too many people on one side of the trade. What greater spark than the launch of a US-regulated futures product on the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the US? Technically, Bitnomial was the first to introduce XRP futures that were approved by the CFTC, but Coinbase's popularity and reach put it in a whole new league. For specialty traders, this is hardly a fringe product. Hedge funds, family offices, and other institutional players are being invited to get back into the XRP market, but this time in an organized and legal manner. Ultimately, Coinbase's action may be more about sending a message to Wall Street, Washington, and the whole digital asset sector than it is about serving the needs of the general public. Now that XRP is back in the market, institutional demand may increase due to new financial tools, possible regulatory clarity, and insider holding speculations. If XRP's price behavior begins to mirror a story that has been subtly reconstructed behind the scenes, don't be shocked. Coinbase is providing more than simply XRP futures. They are establishing the groundwork for a more extensive XRP narrative, one that involves funding from Wall Street, widespread publicity, and perhaps even a huge breakout in the making. Crazy, huh? Coming directly from Coinbase, this could be the most positive indication we've seen for XRP this year. However, it doesn't end there. Experts aren't holding back in the booming crypto realm. They have made some quite audacious forecasts regarding the future direction of XRP, and I promise you that some of them will astound you. This is something you will want to hear. Thus, there's a good reason why the XRP community is booming. The discourse surrounding Ripple's native coin is changing from one of caution to unadulterated optimism, as evidenced by Coinbase's institutional support and the startling price projections that are sweeping social media. And it's obvious that something significant could be developing if you've been paying close attention. A spark has already been ignited by Coinbase's decision to introduce regulated XRP futures. However, what is currently drawing attention is the sentiment that is emerging outside of conventional financial circles. Bitcoin forecasts that seem like they belong in a science fiction book have been all over Twitter. However, a closer examination reveals that the enthusiasm isn't wholly unfounded. It has its roots in years of stifled enthusiasm, enormous potential for use cases, and the growing recognition that XRP may be a key player in the next phase of international payments development. The XRP community was on high alert after Buffett recently sent out a tweet. When you see XRP reaching $50 after your portfolio has been losing money for a while and Trump finally starts to make amends with the entire globe. Whether intended as comedy or foresight, the remark struck a chord with some who thought that geopolitical changes would propel XRP into a new era of significance, particularly if Ripple emerges as a major force in global finance in 2018 and replaces or enhances SWIFT. Even more straightforward was XRP Vanguard, who boldly tweeted, "XRP is going to $28. Other ardent supporters also echoed this assertion. However, it was when famous person Jack the Rippler reminded his audience that the actual disturbance occurred. A few months ago, David Schwartz shared this chart. Get ready for a significant XRP breakout to $100. The CTO of Ripple, Schwartz, has always posted strategically. The community has, of course, been analyzing every clue. Steph, on the other hand, wasn't holding back. XRP surged above $2,000. You know, that kind of forecast sounds crazy, until you take into account the long-term possibilities if XRP actually turns into the global liquidity bridge for cross-border payments. XRP Dragon 2. He is reaffirming his prediction that XRP will reach double digits in 2025. But to XRP holders who've survived regulatory battles, exchange delistings, and market cycles, it feels like a long overdue breakout is within reach. He actually predicted in one tweet. Let's now discuss one of the most audacious predictions to date. Remy Relief, an XRP community analyst, sparked a lot of discussion when he predicted that XRP might hit $1,200 before the end of the year. Compared to current levels, that would represent a 56,000% increase. He provides a strong argument to support it. We may witness previously unthinkable pricing if XRP accounts for even a small portion of SWIFT's yearly worldwide transaction volume. It is consistent with earlier analysis by CryptoTank, which last year proposed that XRP might reach $100 if 10% of SWIFT's daily volume was allocated to it. Although renowned industry commentator Alex Caraco has referred to these ambitious goals as unattainable, he acknowledges that in a market that is dominated by adoption, liquidity, and narratives, the possibility of unexpected catalysts is very real. The truth is that while XRP's fundamentals haven't altered in a long time, institutional involvement, market positioning, and public opinion have. One of the quickest and most effective blockchain networks is still the XRP ledger. International collaborations are still being formed by Ripple. And now that regulated XRP futures have been introduced by Coinbase, Bitnomial, and other significant participants, the foundation for big money's entry into the